want to thank Chairman Palmer for convening this hearing. And you probably heard this today from every district in the country, but my constituents frequently express their frustration with the persistent barrage of illegal robocalls, robotexts. They're a nuisance, and they're a significant distress, anxiety, particularly for our elderly population, because some of these folks are up to no good and are taking advantage of our constituents. These communications often exploit our most vulnerable individuals, and it's really eroding our trust in the telecommunications systems. I look forward to receiving updates on the progress made under existing laws and exploring actionable next steps to protect consumers and strengthen enforcement. And I want to thank our witnesses for being here with us. Mr. Burkew and Ms. Legan, there has been a lot of public and private action in the fight against illegal robocalls, both under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act and under the TRACED Act. Generally, robocall numbers have been on a downward trend over the years. If illegal robocalls trends have dropped, why am I still getting so many complaints from my constituents?
Yeah, and I think some of the members sort of expressed it. There are really positive numbers there, 50% reduction scam robocalls, but not everyone's having the same experience. Some people do get more than others, so that is an ongoing challenge. But I think we have the right framework. I think we are tracing back those illegal calls. Some of those are illegal telemarketing. We're tracing them back. That information is making its way to enforcement. And in terms of the scam calls in particular, we know that they're going to keep going. Just because it gets a little harder doesn't mean they say, okay, we're going to go do some other line of business. They're just going to keep coming through a new channel, through a new method, through a new shell company. And so that's really where we think the answer has to be actually going after them with criminal enforcement, and we think that should be a priority.
Ms. Legan, would you care to add to that?
I agree with what Mr. Burkew said. You know, the framework that we have in place continues to show progress, and we continue to build upon that with new tools and enhance those tools with machine learning and AI and the latest technologies to make them even better. And I agree that more focus on enforcement by taking those bad actors off the field is where we need help. We saw a group of state attorneys general, for example, recently get a judgment against prolific robocaller Jonathan Spiller, so that prevents him from starting new businesses or otherwise kind of popping up again after getting an enforcement action against him. So things like that will continue to help make a big difference and continue to drive those robocall numbers down.
So we're identifying these bad actors. It's just a matter of prosecuting them?
Yeah, in many cases we are, or we're getting good data that can lead to further investigation. It's one of the reasons I'm actually optimistic about continuing to work across sectors, because we can now combine some of our data with some data that the banks can get that through, Ms. Legan mentioned the AARP's National Elder Coordination Council, really aggregate data so that, because that's one of the challenges, if it's one scam, it's hard to get a prosecutor involved. But if you can show it's a multi-million-dollar scam, you can. So that's where some of the work needs to go.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Mr. Wackensbach, in April 2025, SEC issued a notice of proposed rulemaking. They proposed a two-year timeline for providers to continue to maintain non-IP infrastructure to either complete their IP transitions or fully implement one or more of the available non-IP caller ID authentication frameworks in their non-IP network. In your opinion, is the FCC's two-year timeline reasonable?
Well, I would yield to my colleagues to the right on more of the technical timeline there, because they're the ones that are going to be implementing some of that. I would say from our perspective, if I could just, since I got the mic for a second, bring in another universe of recipient of a lot of these robocalls that we haven't really addressed yet, is that what lies in between business and consumers a lot of times is small business. because a lot of those recipients, they're kind of part consumer, part business owner. Their cell phone becomes their business phone, their residential phone, et
Right.
cetera. They can't qualify for do not call if it's considered business or not. That is a vulnerability that we hear from a lot from our members on small business, and it's also a vulnerability that's being exploited from some of these predatory lawsuits I mentioned earlier in my opening statement.
Right, yeah, you've answered my second question there about the,
Sorry.
really, no, the impact of, particularly in rural areas and other non-IP networks. Ms. Leggett, in your testimony, you discussed how CTIA and its wireless partners are embarking on the next generation of call identification solutions, namely branded calling. What is banded calling, and how will it help reduce scam and scam calls?
Thank you for the question. CTI is building the next generation of branded calling by bringing together the wireless ecosystem players to give the consumer more information about who is calling and why. And branded calling, as the name suggests, means that the logo of the caller comes through. This framework provides verified identity of the caller and builds upon the STIR/SHAKEN framework to make that information that comes through to the caller even clearer and better. So by doing so, we help empower the consumer to make better choices about, do you want to answer the call or not? And we think that'll be a really helpful tool in continuing to protect consumers from scam calls.
Good, thank all of you, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.